Hi, my name is Patrick Reagan. Welcome to the Operating System's Windows configuration, where we discuss the various tools to configure Windows 10 and 11, including Windows settings and control panel. In Part 11, Managing System Properties discusses the advanced system settings in the control panel, which opens the System Properties dialog box. It discusses how to configure Windows performance settings, including manage your virtual memory, user profiles, and environment variables. It also discusses startup and recovery options, including data execution prevention, and how to enable remote assistance from remote desktop. For those who are going to take the A+ exam, there are practice questions toward the end of the video. System Properties is a control panel applet that allows you to configure operating system settings, including hardware settings, connectivity, user profiles, security settings, and the computer name. Microsoft has been slowly phasing out the control panel applets by moving the settings over to the Windows settings. Today, in Windows 10 and 11, if you open Control Panel and double-click the System applet, you open Windows Settings, System, About page. To open the Legacy System Properties dialog box, click Advanced System Settings from the About page. The Computer Name tab allows you to change the computer name and to add or remove the computer from a domain. The Hardware tab allows you to open the Device Manager and to open Device Installation Settings, which specifies if you want to automatically download manufacturer's apps and custom icons available for your devices. The Advanced tab allows you to configure Windows performance settings, modify user profiles, modify startup and recovery settings, and modify environment variables. Today, computers are more powerful than ever. However, when Windows Vista was introduced with the Arrow Glass theme, the look and feel of Windows that we know today takes processing power. If a computer isn't powerful enough, these effects can adversely affect performance. If a computer is struggling, you can cut down these effects to free up processing power for other things. With today's computer, you will not have to use these options. Processor scheduling allows you to choose how to allocate processor resources. If you want to have a computer that runs quietly in the corner to perform certain tasks without much user interaction, you could select background services to increase performance for those services. Since most people are actively running programs, you would keep the program option so that more processing is shifted toward those running programs. Virtual memory options allow you to configure the paging file used by Windows. Virtual memory is memory that pretends to be RAM by mapping disk space to RAM, which allows you to load more programs and data. Most people use the automatically managed paging file size for all hard drives. You can increase the performance by moving the paging file to a separate fast physical drive that is different than your system drive. You can increase performance by having multiple paging files on separate multiple fast physical drives so that the drives combined can increase reading and writing performance. You can increase performance by specifying the initial size of the drive is the same as the maximum size so that the paging file does not have to grow when more memory is needed. Note: you do not get increased performance if you place multiple paging files on the same physical drive via multiple partitions or volumes. Data Execution Prevention, or DEP, is a built-in security feature that helps to prevent the execution of malicious code in your system, which might be used by hackers and viruses. By default, DEP is enabled in Windows 10 or 11, and you can manually disable it completely or disable only for certain programs. DEP protects data-only memory pages by making them as non-executable, which means that the page can store data but not run any code. If the malicious app tries to run a code from the protected data-only memory, DEP will stop and kill the app. It is highly recommended to have DEP enabled. If you need to disable DEP because of the legacy application that you need to run, you can then turn on DEP and use an exception for that program. You should consider replacing or upgrading the legacy software. A Windows user profile is a collection of folders, files, registry, and configuration settings that define the environment for a user who logs on with a user account. When a user logs into the computer the first time, a user profile is created, which is stored in the C:\users\username folder. If you need to delete a profile to free disk space, you would open the User Profiles dialog box, click the profile you want to delete, and click Delete. You should not delete the username folders manually using File Explorer without deleting the registry settings located at HKey, local machine, /software, /Microsoft, /Windows, /NT current version, /profile list, /users GUID. If the registry settings are still there, the profiles will be corrupted if the user logs in the future. Therefore, you should delete the profiles using the User Profiles dialog box. The System Startup options allows you to configure the boot menu, which is useful if you have multiple operating systems loaded on the system and you want to display a menu so that you can choose which operating system you want to load. If you want more information on dual booting a system, visit the sites shown on the page. Since Windows can run Hyper-V, which allows you to run virtual machines with other copies of Windows and other operating systems running, dual boot is not as popular as it once was. The System Startup options allow you to configure the login when a system failure occurs, such as when the blue screen of death. A memory dump records the contents of system memory when the computer stops unexpectedly. The dump files can be used by Microsoft support to analyze persistent problems on your computer. A complete memory dump may contain data from processes that are running when the computer dump was collected. If you select the Complete Memory Dump option, you must have a page and file on the boot volume that is sufficient to hold all of the physical RAM plus 1 megabyte. A kernel memory dump records only the kernel memory. By default, the memory dump is stored in %systemroot%/memory.dmp, which is the C:\\Windows folder. If you want to read the mini dump file in Windows, you can search for and download the WinDBG tool from Microsoft. For more information about reading the dump files, visit the site shown on the screen. Environment variables are named values that are kept in the Windows system while it is running, like a location of a folder on your computer, a version number, a list of objects, and so on. Each variable has a name and a value that you in the system can access that can affect the way the running the processes will behave on a computer. Environment variables are part of the environment in which the process runs. For example, it will list where to store temp files, the path statement which specifies the folders in which you can execute an executable file from any command prompt on the system, the location of the Windows folder, and the location of a user's home folder. To get a list of environment variables, execute the set command at a command prompt. To access an environment variable, the environment variables will be surrounded by % signs. The echo command, usually used with batch files, can be used to display environment variables. Programs and scripts can use these variables so that the programs and scripts can be more flexible. At the bottom of the screen is showing the path command and the path environment variable, which shows the same path. System variables are global and cannot be changed by any user. User environment variables have values that differ from user to user. You may use environment variables in scripts. While some programs may add environment variables for the program to run properly, on rare occasions you may need to add an environment variable as part of an installation process. The most likely use of a configured environment variable is to permanently modify the path statement. The System Protection tab is used to enable or disable system restores, which can be used to restore a system to a restore point if you have a problem. By default, System Restore is enabled for your C drive and turned off for other computers since the C drive typically has your Windows folders, program files, and boot files. Using the System Restore will be discussed in future videos. Most companies will have remote workers. Remote access ensures that users can work out of the office, including working from home, by accessing the corporate resources. Remote Assistant is used to connect to a remote computer that is connected to the network or internet where you can send an invite to the user, which allows you to connect to their machine and see what they are seeing. Remote Assistant allows for remote collaboration. Remote Desktop allows you to connect to a computer that is connected to your network, including systems connected through a VPN. It allows you to connect it to a computer and troubleshoot just as if you were in front of the computer using the mouse and keyboard. Remote Desktop is for unintended access where you will not be directly collaborating with the remote user. You would use the Remote Desktop Connection, or mstsc.exe, to connect to the computer. Remember, Windows Home Editions will not have Remote Desktop available. In the Remote Desktop tab, you can enable or disable Remote Desktop, and if it requires Network Level Authentication, or NLA, which is recommended. NLA ensures that only authorized users can establish a Remote Desktop session before full network access is granted. NLA significantly minimizes the resources the server uses per attempted connection and thereby mitigates the risk posed by denial of service or DOS attack. Remote Desktop can also be configured through the Windows settings, System, Remote Desktop. Select Users button allows you to configure which users can connect to the computer. The local administrator accounts already can connect to a computer with Remote Desktop. Users that are added here are added to the Remote Desktop Users group. Question: you have a new application that has a folder that you need to include in the path environment variable. What would you use to configure the path environment variables? Answer: Control Panel System Properties. Question: what is the proper way to delete a user profile? Answer: use Control Panel System Properties. For more information, visit these sites. In summary, System Properties is a control panel applet that allows you to configure the operating system settings, including hardware settings, connectivity, user profiles, security settings, and the computer name. Virtual memory options allow you to configure the page and file used by Windows. Data Execution Prevention, or DEP, is a built-in security feature that helps to prevent the execution of malicious code in your system, which might be used by hackers and viruses. If you need to delete a profile to free disk space, you would open the User's Profiles dialog box, click the profile you want to delete, and click Delete. The System Startup options allows you to configure the logging when a system failure occurs, such as the blue screen of death. Environment variables are named variables that are kept in the Windows system while it is running, such as the location of a folder on your computer, a version number, a list of objects, and so on. Thank you for watching this video. This finishes the Windows configuration series. The next video series will be Windows networking. Also check out the Windows architecture and components series. Thank you.